Okay, so we are live. I do not typically do a live on Instagram. I think this is like one of my first times. This live was supposed to be Thursday night, but something's happened, so it is now Sunday night. So I had said that I was going to go live about my infertility and my IVF journey, and there were a lot of questions that have come to me about this. It is a topic that I think is much easier for me to share like in little snippets rather than discussing it as a whole, but I really wanted to just get this out there and discuss it and just have it because I think it's really important. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background first, as why now, what has been going on. If anyone knows me or has been following for a while, I have an 8-year-old daughter. So we had no issues having her. In fact, I kind of find it hilarious that, I don't know that hilarious is the correct word, but like pretty funny that I knew nothing at that time, nothing at all. We wanted her and we had her. It was literally that simple. And then when she was about 1.5, I said, I think we should start thinking about having another one. So she's 8.5, so like whatever, 8.5 minus a year and a half. Sorry, 7 years ago. Sorry, the math, and we started to try and got nowhere. And I think for me, it was more of like, well, I'm not supposed to have one now, so I just don't have one, and that's okay. And I said that for a while, actually. I just kept saying, like, if I'm supposed to have one, I'm going to have one. And that went on for a couple of years. I think part of it was that, and I think the other part was I wasn't in a place that I wanted to admit that maybe something was wrong. Because, like I said, I had her, so how could something be wrong? I mean, that makes no sense. Except for it makes perfect sense because there's something called secondary infertility, which is when you have one and then you can't have another one. In very, very simple, plain terms, okay? As simple as I could possibly have made that. So I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to think about it. So I think when Tamima was like 4, I finally went to a doctor. Everything goes by how old she was because that's like my point of reference of timelines. And I remember going to the doctor and she's like, you really need to see a specialist. And I was like, I'm really not doing that. Sorry, no, I'm not going down that road. I don't want shots. I don't want any of this. I don't want all the tests. I don't want it. And so I just didn't do it. I had convinced myself that I just needed to keep trying. I was very embarrassed. I was very ashamed by it. I felt inadequate. I felt like I was doing something wrong. And I didn't want to deal with it. So I, like everything else at that time of my life, I just pushed it under the rug. And as people would ask me, why don't you have another kid, or do you want another kid, which are all, by the way, not okay questions to ask. Do not ask people those questions. I just kept saying like, it's not for me right now. I don't want it, whatever it is. So fast forward to 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, I finally made the decision. I'm going to go for testing. Great. I had been diagnosed with PCOS. And I had lost weight, and I said, you know what, there's none of these other things the doctors are going to tell me to do, right? Because a big thing that doctors say, I shouldn't say all doctors, many doctors, when you aren't healthy, they will say, get healthy and try again. So I did all the things, and nothing worked. So I finally went to a doctor. I got through maybe a quarter of the testing, maybe. And I freaked out and I ran away from it. And I said, I am not ready for this. I am not doing this. I don't want shots. Just understand that everything revolved around shots. And I just kept saying, I don't want the shots. No, I don't want it at all. So fast forward, COVID, and everything in my world was upside down. I started to seek help. So I went to a therapist, which, by the way, I just want to say it because I'm a big, massive advocate for it. If you feel that you need help, go get help. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's nothing to be ashamed about. I'm a big believer in killing the stigmas, getting them out of here. If you need help, seek help, okay? So I still see therapists, still see her, and we started working through a lot of the issues that I had revolving around this whole thing, and how I felt less than, how I didn't want people to judge me because I have a beautiful daughter. How can I ask for more? There were a lot of things to deal with. And then we got here. So I asked people to send me some questions because I really wanted to know what it is that, people wanted to know. Aside from the fact that I did get a lot of questions, and some I answered and some I was just like, this is not appropriate to ask someone, but one of the big questions that I kept getting was, why now? Why did I decide now to do it? So like I said, after seeking some help, I had wanted one. I've wanted another child. It's not like a secret. It was just, I couldn't mentally get there. So the why now did we make this decision? Because I finally said, enough is enough. Like, if I want something, there's no shame in trying to go and get it. There was also a financial situation. I will say, thank God, live in a beautiful, wonderful community that we are able to get help, and thank God for my health coaching, because without it, I really wouldn't be able to do this. So there's a lot of reasons as to why now. Financially, I'm able to do it. And, I finally put that behind me of not wanting to get the help that we need. Another big question was, why am I so open? Why did I decide to be open about this? This is something very secretive. This is between a husband and a wife. Someone said to me, this should be in the bedroom. So very frankly, if I could have done this by myself in a bedroom, I probably wouldn't be so open about this. But the truth is, we're not able to, and we need help. And there's so many people who need help. And like I said, it's not a secret. This is a real thing. Infertility, secondary infertility, anything regarding having a child, yes, that is something private between a husband and a wife. But it's not a secret, and there has to be an understanding for each person, and I will never tell someone they should do something that they are not comfortable with. But Ike and I have an understanding, because that was another question. Someone said, does your husband know you're talking about this? Yes, my husband knows and fully supports me, because he also believes that this is something that should be discussed and should be spoken about and should not be kept a secret. So we have our boundaries. There are certain things that I will not talk about. Someone asked me my specific diagnosis, and I said, that's really not your business. And so, we made the decision of things that we are comfortable talking about and things we are not comfortable talking about. I will not be publicizing, the day that we find out if I'm pregnant or not. Like, that's something that we plan to not publicize at all. But we wanted to make sure that, I always say, if there's one person that, for me, being loud and me talking about it, it helps one person, 100% worth it. Because I'm really like an open book. So like, it's not a big deal for me. Like, I'm happy to have everyone on my journey. I'm happy to, answer questions. Like, I'm really happy to do these things. So that's why I just feel like if I'm able to do it, I should be doing it. I'm going to look down for a second because I wrote out some of the questions, because there's totally more, but I should have put it here, but I didn't. I put it down over here. So just give me 1 second as I look at the rest of the questions, because I really want to respond to them. Oh, so this was a big one. Someone asked me, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning, but someone had asked me, don't you feel bad using resources for people who don't even have a child yet? And I thought about that, and I said, no, I don't, because just because you don't have one, I should say it actually this way, just because you have one does not mean you don't deserve to have more. Now, I have spoken to so many women. I've put myself in tons of support groups for myself and to help others. I get questions now all the time, and I've spoken to so many women who do not even have one child. They are just as happy for someone to have a child. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there isn't like this begrudging feeling. Of course, everyone is different. And I will say, sometimes when I would see a pregnancy announcement, or I would, be invited to certain things, it would tinge at me. And I know that there are some people that have that much stronger. But, I don't think anyone is sitting there thinking like, oh my God, you already have a child. Why are you asking for more? Like, I already beat myself up over that. So like, I realize that that's not really what other people should care about, or not do something because of. Like, if you have a child and you want another, you deserve to have that child just as much as anyone else. Another question that I get often is, what is this process? So I've shared a lot. I've shared some of it. There were lots of shots involved. I'm not scared of shots, but let me just tell you, at a certain point, you're like, why on earth am I still doing this? And just by the way, more shots are coming. So we, with the expertise of our doctor, he recommended that we have specific testing done on our embryos because of the medical side of this. Some of the causes of the secondary infertility. So typically, and again, everyone is different. So when I say typical, I mean typical as in like the whole, but each person is different. And I'm also putting this in simple terms, because I am not a scientist. I am not a doctor. I'm not in anything except for a person who's gone through it. So you take shots to stimulate the follicles. These create eggs. Again, I told you simple, right? Each person's different. Some have lots, some have little. When this happens, then they are retrieved. Once they're retrieved, some are right away fertilized. Some are fertilized after a couple of hours. Again, depending on the situation of each couple, that happens. Then they are watched, and they're watched. Now, some people at that point, once they get to day 3, 5, 7, it is then put back in. For us, that's not happening. We are getting ours tested. So for me specifically, day 1 was the it was the retrieval. The next day is day 1. We had 11 eggs retrieved. 8 of those were properly fertilized. From the 8, 4 embryos were biopsied and frozen. The other 4 stopped growing after day 5. So I don't know what happened to those, and I didn't ask, and I don't think I want to know. But there are 4 that have been sent for testing. Now, after that, we will then speak to our doctor and set a time frame of when the next step is going to happen. I don't exactly know the whole next step. I know that there are shots involved. That I know. But all that little thing, I'm not 100% sure, but I will be sharing it as when I get it, when I get the information, I will be sharing it. So that is the overview that I have. I have done research, but I'm not like fluent really in it because it hasn't happened. So I don't like to talk about something that I don't really know. So that's that. Some other questions, were just like, how do you feel about this? And, is the hormonal thing really true? If you saw my story a few days ago, you know it is, because I literally couldn't stop crying for 10 minutes. How do I feel? Every day is different. I will say that I have been tired, more tired, but again, every person's different. I'm going to be ending this, but I did want to just end with this. First of all, if you have questions, feel free to send them to me. Happy to answer. Second of all, I love every single person who has reached out to me, everyone who has liked or commented. Really, like, this is scary. This is something scary. It's something extremely vulnerable. Like, I talk about a lot of things, but it is something that's private. It's not a secret, but it is something that's private. So the love and the support that I have received over these months is unreal. So I just wanted to say that. And now I forgot the third thing. Okay, that happened. I did have something else. I don't remember what it was. This is what it was. I just wanted to end with, if you are a person who is going through something like this, okay, you do not need to be open like me. You do you. But know that I'm here for you, and also know that there's an amazing community of people who are there for you. There are so many support groups. There are so many Instagram pages. There are WhatsApp groups. There are, I mean, if you started, you can talk to your clinic. A lot of them have Facebook groups. Your cities have them. You do not need to do this alone. Bottom line is, you don't need to do this alone. If you want to do it alone, again, you do you. But you don't have to. And there is nothing wrong with you. It took me a long time to realize that. I will say that. But there isn't actually anything wrong with you. This is the thing that we were given. In Hebrew, it's called a tircha. I don't know the exact translation to that, because a lot of words I know in that context, but it's like this challenge. That's the word. This is the challenge that was given to you, but it does not mean that there is something wrong with you. So I wanted to end with that. Thank you all for joining. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I also don't know how to end this, I just realized. Okay, maybe it's this button here. Okay, sorry. I'm really new to this one. And again, thanks.